Hello and welcome to your Thursday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on those platforms as well. Give us a follow, interact with us on social media. That is the best way for us to know if you're digging what we're doing, if we're talking about what you want to hear about. So again, interact with us. We appreciate that very much. Make sure you also follow along with the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell. That way you get a notification each and every time not only we upload an episode, but another one of the great shows on the platform, bringing you new content each and every day. Speaking of new content every day, SportsWire Radio, sportnarium.com/player. Tom and the crew do a fantastic job of covering all of your sporting needs 24/7, including our fantastic show. So make sure that you check out those guys, throw them some love and support as well. And if you are listening on a traditional audio format, hit that subscribe button for us. Give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that very, very much. Once again, my name is Chris Belcher. Thank you for hanging out with us on a Thursday. Joining me, as always, is the young buck, my partner in crime, Mr. Andy York. Andy, it's another Thursday, and we are reviewing the fallout from one pay-per-view and previewing another one. It is a crazy time.
It's a very crazy time, but a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to talking about this week because there's a lot to dive into with AEW, but also with Hell in a Cell coming up. Might be one of the worst builds to a card of all time because it's weird. It's a weird pay-per-view. So
hey,
it's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about it.
You said that for WrestleMania Backlash, and then we were pleasantly surprised at the end of that.
Yeah, so I'm fine with it. They just keep building to terrible pay-per-views and the pay-per-view delivers, then I guess I'm okay with that norm. I'll just skip the weekly TV and watch the pay-per-views. But no, I'm looking forward to talking about it.
It's going to be good. But before we get there, we teased an announcement earlier this week. If you were listening to our Thursday episode, the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation is coming up very, very soon. And unfortunately, we're not ready to make that date announcement just yet, but check out our social media. Again, I plugged at the beginning of the show. I'll plug it again at PBW Podcast. You will see an announcement coming very, very soon for our launch date for the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation. It will be on Fridays, tentatively. It will be on Fridays. So again, keep up with our social media. We're going to get that out to you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Andy and I are very excited. Normally we chat for a few minutes before we hit the record button just to make sure we're on the same page. Guess what we talked about before we hit the record button today? Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation. So we're very excited to bring it to you. However, we're going to hold off on an announcement date for right now, but it is coming very, very soon. In the next, Andy, 2 weeks, most likely, you're going to see the first episode drop. So if you haven't already, now's your chance to go back and listen to the draft episode. It's available in our archives. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun. Myself, Andy, and our commissioner, man at the gorilla position, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Brad Beal joined us. So we're getting everything lined out for that first episode, and it is coming very, very soon. All right, before we get to Hell in a Cell, though, Andy, we got to talk about the fallout on AEW from Double or Nothing. The biggest fallout of all. Everybody had their questions. Everybody has their opinions, but he showed up again. He was on Dynamite. He was advertised. MJF comes out and he cuts the pipe bomb 2.0, basically. What was your, let's start here. What was your gut reaction? Whenever you're listening to this promo, you hear the context of it, you hear what's going on, and the fans are kind of, don't really know how to respond, but then they get into it. What was your gut reaction?
So my gut reaction was, I feel like this is a lot of stuff that MJF has been wanting to say for a while, finally coming off his chest. Like, I feel like that is absolutely true. I think this is something that started off as a shoot. Like, I think there was a lot of animosity between him and Tony Khan. I'm not going to say that there's not now, but I think there was a lot of animosity and stuff. And now it's turned into a work that is a lot of fun to watch happen.
Yep.
Like, the beauty of pipe bombs is the fact that there's so much truth behind everything they say.
Yep.
And so I think there was definitely like a Punk level esque pipe bomb. Obviously, I don't know if you saw what happened after they cut his mic off and cut to commercial break. Punk actually walks out to try to calm MJF down, and he jumps the barricade and walks through the crowd to like add
Mm-hmm.
even more realism to it. Broke a dude's phone. He slapped a dude's phone like 50 yards away. It was pretty funny to watch that happen.
Hilarious.
But yeah, like my genuine gut reaction was this was exactly what it needed to be
Yep.
because I don't know what's real and I don't know what's scripted. And I love when pro wrestling does that. When they blur the lines of what is actually supposed to happen versus like somebody going off on their own and doing their own thing. So
Yep.
I love that we don't know whether this is fully a work, whether this is fully a shoot, whether it's somewhat in the middle. That was the best thing about the original pipe bomb that Punk cut is we have no idea what he was actually supposed to say and what he wasn't supposed to say. And so yeah, I loved every second of it. I love the crowd's reaction of booing him the entire time, and then at the very end when they come back from commercial breaks, very loud MJF chants going throughout the entire arena. So it was really cool to kind of see that happen.
Yeah, it was definitely really cool. You said, I think you said this the other day. Well, we say this all the time on the show. There's a nugget of truth to everything.
Yep.
And no matter where it goes or what, there's a nugget of truth. So I think MJF, I think you're right. I think a lot of this is something he wanted to say for a long time. However, I don't think that these are his true 100% feelings at this moment. Maybe a lot of them still are, but I think a lot of this is water under the bridge now,
Probably.
or he would not be on television saying it.
Yeah. I think the only thing that would be still somewhat true is when he said that you're not going to put your money in, or you're not going to pull money out of your pocket unless it's for an ex WWE guy. Like
Right.
I think that line was definitely from the heart. I think that was
Sure. Well,
probably one
that's
of the
true.
lines that was from the heart.
I
But I
agree.
think most of the other stuff was definitely like water under the bridge. Okay, now everybody knows this. We've kind of worked something out. Now let's go out there and
Use it.
add more to it and use it. And I
Yep.
think that definitely is playing a part into it.
Yeah. I thought it was very, very interesting how the crowd cheered when MJF said that. When he said stuff about ex WWE guys and,
Yeah.
blah, blah. It was funny that they seemed to back him on that. But every time an ex WWE guy debuts or shows up, they cheer and they get
Right.
all excited. So it's like the fans, they want a dog WWE, but they know when a WWE guy shows up, like Miro, for example. We're going to talk about Miro here in a minute. Miro's a WWE guy. They
Yeah.
popped huge when Miro showed up. So, like, he's not going to get that pop unless he was in WWE before.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just think it's funny how a lot of AEW fans like that operate,
Yeah, and I think it depends on the person because, like,
Sure it does.
I think
agree
with like Amiro, I agree. I think obviously he wouldn't have the recognition that he would have had. Like he wouldn't have the same recognition if he didn't come through WWE to get to AEW. I
Sure.
completely agree with that. I think the differences are like Adam Cole would be if Adam Cole went from Ring of Honor to AEW, he would have gotten as big of a pop as he did when
That's
he
true.
showed back up.
That's true.
I think Malachi Black is another one that when he was Tommy End, if he would have shown up, it'd have been a big reaction, a big deal as well. So I think it just kind of depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. Like I think fans want to see some of these people in their company, like in AEW in the company. However, I think also some of those same fans are sick and tired of seeing just WWE people, ex WWE people showing up
I
because
agree with that,
there's
too.
some other people out there that we could get, like a Roosh who just showed up on a Double or Nothing, like someone
Right.
like him. Like there are some other people that we can go out and get. So I think it's a double edged sword. I think fans are going to be. I mean, who's not going to cheer when Keith Lee shows up or when Miro shows up? It's hard not to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they probably want to see more AEW homegrown people than former WWE people coming in and taking over.
It's a double-edged sword. You're exactly right. It's somewhat hard to balance. And I mean, kudos to Tony Khan for giving it a shot. I mean, we talk about all the time how the roster is a little bit convoluted and
Right.
it's, all that kind of stuff. So that being said, though, man, back to the point at hand, MJF, man, what a promo. no, I would say that nobody on that roster could deliver that promo quite like MJF
No.
did on the show last night. Them cutting his mic and cutting the feed. That to me, like, if there were no points in that promo that I didn't think that it was a work, that I thought was a shoot the whole time, when they cut his mic and they cut the feed, that's when I knew absolutely it was a work.
Yeah.
Because if they wanted to do that, guess what? They could have done it 5 minutes before they did.
Yeah.
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so for them to find that point and cut it, like, come on.
However, I get it. I agree. However, the last few words of MJF would cut any TV off and any live feed off.
Good point.
So I think that kind of plays, because like AEW doesn't bleep out anything. Even when Moxley dropped the F-bomb when he first returned, they didn't bleep it out. So like the fact that they bleeped that whole thing out definitely added more to it than took away from it. So I agree. Like I agree. I think then I knew like this is more than likely a work. However, my wife was watching it with me, and when it cut to black, she went, "Was that real?" And I was like, "That's the reaction they want you to have."
That's right.
They did their job perfectly getting that reaction. So I think it's they handled it like they handled it perfectly. I don't think they could have done it any better than they actually than they actually did.
You know, I always wondered in the back of my mind, because you always think like baby faces are going to turn heel and heels are going to turn baby face or whatever. I always thought in the back of my head, how on God's green earth are we going to turn MJF into a baby face? We just did. We just did last night. I don't know if they'll run with it or not, but that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Like that was the loudest, other than being in Long Island. That was the loudest MJ, and even then, I think these were louder than in Long Island. I think they could run with it. I don't think they will. I don't think they should. I think he is far better as a heel than he probably would be as a face. But if they ever wanted to do it, they found their way to do it right then and there.
That's right. You're exactly right. We mentioned Miro earlier. Miro finally showing up. Man, I got a bone to pick with dang Miro. And not necessarily Miro, but his wife. Man.
She spoiled it.
She spoiled it. Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Like, she totally gave it away. Like, if it was obvious, like when Johnny Elite, when that graphic came up on social media yesterday, when it said he's signed a contract for an open challenge to anybody on the AEW roster. Oh, who could it be? Oh, that would be cool. What if this person came back? What if this person, but blah, blah, blah. It could have, for all we know, it could have been Lance Archer, and they're going to push him back to the moon or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that would have gotten a really good reaction too. But like, that's just an example. Who knows who it could have been? And then daggum friggin' Lana getting on Twitter and saying, "Oh, I think I ought to watch Dynamite tonight." I'm like, stop it.
Yeah, I that stuff like that annoys me. Like, it annoys me when people like that do it. It annoyed me because I went on a very long rant about it when they announced like half of the women's Rumble in the Royal Rumble. It's like, don't ruin the surprise fun stuff like that. And so that part definitely frustrated me. However, when he showed back up on screen and the music hit and the crowd went crazy, he was back home. So I like beforehand, it was a bummer that we kind of knew this was going to happen, because if it would have been, I think if they would have done like a Lance Archer there instead of Miro after Lana or CJ Perry had teased it, I don't think it would have it wouldn't have been a good reaction for Lance Archer. So I'm glad they ran with it. But yeah, I stay off Twitter. Just stay off Twitter.
Like, I know that he got a great reaction and it was awesome, but could you imagine what would have happened had she not said anything?
Right.
If he would have just showed up?
Yeah.
And I know that AEW is probably banking on, well, we got like 15,000, give or take, 15,000 people in the building tonight. We're banking on like 13,000 of them not reading her Twitter. It's like, that's not.
Yeah.
And she probably did that without their permission, and I get it, but it's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
It's so annoying. Another thing that got announced last night on Dynamite that's got everybody excited. We speculated this on the Tuesday show about Punk's next feud, and we anticipated that they would get the everything kicked off for Forbidden Door. Here we are, Tanahashi answering the challenge of CM Punk. Man,
Oh my gosh.
What a main event this is going to be.
I am so excited for this. If we didn't get Okada, I'm so glad we got Tanahashi because Tanahashi is like the heart and soul of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and
Right.
so I am very excited to see what they're going to do with him and Punk. I think it's going to be different, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see that. I'm also just excited to see who else they're going to bring in. Like
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen because I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't defend the IWGP World Heavyweight title at Forbidden Door versus an AEW guy, which Okada is the current IWGP champ.
I was getting ready to say, since this was not Okada, who do you think he's going to face?
My heart wants to say Kenny. Run that back one more time, please. But I don't think he's going to be ready. I don't think it's going to come back. I don't think it's going to come back in time. Adam Cole, I think would be really interesting to see Okada versus Adam Cole. Um,
Could you do Hangman?
you could, I think you could do Hangman versus Okada. I think that would be really interesting. I mean, you could if you wanted to do Jericho versus Okada. Like
Mm,
that would be really interesting to see that, or Moxley versus Okada. Like those two would be real.
yeah.
Moxley did that whole entire feud with Japan for like a year and never fought Okada. So like I would love to see him kind of go up against Okada there.
I think my pick would be Brian Danielson.
Ooh, that would be money. I
Give me
would be
Brian and Okada. That's what I
yeah,
want.
I would be completely fine with that. I would love every second of that. I think my order would be Danielson and then Moxley. I think those
Yeah.
two would be the ones that intrigue me the most. Would be those two. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with like the whole idea of this Forbidden Door pay per view. It leaves so much open that it's going to be a lot of fun to see
Yep.
what they do with a lot of it.
And you hate it for Kenny Omega too, that he's probably not going to be part of it. I mean, like
Yeah,
this pay-per-view is tailor-made for Kenny Omega
yeah.
and couldn't make it happen
Could
unless he comes back in the next 2 weeks or so, or he's
yeah.
a surprise at the pay-per-view or something. I don't know.
Could you imagine though Kenny versus Okada 4 with an American crowd? How
Yeah,
hot that crowd would be for that match? Because like not nothing against the Japanese crowd. They're just Japanese wrestling crowds are completely different than
sure.
American crowds. The
Yep.
crowd would be so on fire for that entire that entire match. It'd be great. I'm
It'd be
excited to see what
insane.
the Bucks do. Like I think the Bucks are going to go up against um, Tamatanga and I forget
Mm.
what his partner's name is. I think they're going to run. They could run that back. There's so many different possibilities though. Kind of bringing up former Bullet Club members together and that whole big thing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you probably get Jeff Cobb and his partner against
Great
FTR.
O'Con. Yeah,
Yep,
probably. Yeah, I
probably
think
gonna
you'll
get
you'll
that.
probably get that.
Does Osprey get a match? You think?
Yeah, honestly, I thought they were going to do Osprey versus Punk. I thought that was going to be the one that we got that one with. Osprey versus Darby Allin would be really interesting. Like I think
Mm,
that's a really good mix. I think you could do Osprey versus Adam Cole as well.
mm-hmm.
I think you could do that. I think you could do. I'm trying to think who else you could do Osprey. I mean, Osprey versus Brian Danielson. If you're not going to do Brian Danielson and Okada, do Osprey and Danielson. That would be great.
Yeah.
I know I'm the big indie guy, and I know I'm the big New Japan guy. I cannot stand Will Ospreay. I think Will Ospreay is the most overrated wrestler of all time.
Mm,
So he's good, and I enjoy the flippy stuff. I think he's too flippy.
mm.
And if I'm saying he's too flippy, and I'm a Young Bucks fan, then wow,
He's probably too flippy.
yeah. So, but I like seeing him versus Danielson. I think would be really interesting and something that would be really good to kind of go back and watch.
I think it's going to be interesting, and certainly glad to have you riding shotgun here, especially for this Forbidden Door thing, because you're going to do a really good job of giving me context and letting me know what's going on. Because I'll be honest, outside of Jericho versus Omega and a couple of Okada matches and
Mm-hmm.
AJ and Nakamura, and just I can count on I can probably count less than 20 New Japan matches that I've ever watched in my entire life. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to give
Yep.
me an education, that's for sure. Let's move on to the last really big announcement that was made on AEW. Want to touch on this? William Regal bringing back his famous announcement, except this time it was blood and guts, not war games. So I guess we're going to see a rematch from Double or Nothing, but inside blood and guts. All I can say is I hope this one's better than the last one.
I when you've got guys like Eddie Kingston and John Moxley in this, it's the brutality is going to be turned up to 11.
Yeah, but like,
And I don't think Jericho's going to get pushed off anything. I think if anybody's going to get pushed off anything, I think it's going to be Eddie Kingston, and I think he's actually going to take the full the full bump instead of the crash pad.
but like, I thought the brutality of the other one was fine. That was a really good match until they all five got in there, and then the camera didn't know what to do. Jericho didn't know what to do. The last bump was bad. We didn't see anything that happened in the cage.
Yeah.
Like, so I just hope they've learned their lesson and they get it figured out.
And I think it was kind of different too because it was still during like the pandemic era,
Sort of,
and,
yes.
And
yes,
so
I agree.
I think it's going to be handled completely different. Obviously, William Regal knows his fair share of War Games style matches, so I think he's going to play a big role in helping produce that and being able to see it. I think this one's going to be much better. I got really excited when they announced it just because of the fact that Moxley is going to be in the Blood and Guts match now. Like that's a match that is catered to him specifically. And so I think it's going to be really fun to see him and Jericho in that kind of stipulation.
Speaking of Jericho, on the way there, we're going to have a hair versus hair match between Jericho and Ortiz. Andy, I have a really bad feeling that Chris Jericho is going to lose.
I think
locks.
he is. I hope he does. I really hope he does.
And if I know Jericho and he's doing a hair versus hair match, that means it's going to be gone. Like Gone. Gone.
Bald Jericho is going to be fun. Bald Jericho is going to be, especially with this whole sports entertainer thing. Bald Jericho is going to be fun. Like I am looking forward to Bald Jericho.
I just don't know what to think about it. Like when the match was announced, I'm like, well, he's losing.
Yeah.
And he's going to go all the way bald. Like he's not just going to cut it off short like he had it for a while. He's going all the way.
Yeah. And I think his hair will grow back quick. I don't think it'll last forever, but
I don't know, man. He's getting old. If you notice the other night, it wasn't when he got his haircut on Wednesday, but at the pay-per-view, you can see a little bit of a bald spot up there near the top starting to form.
At least go ahead and cut it now before it gets, Baron Corbin levels bad. But, I think it's genius to do. I love hair versus hair matches. And so I think this is going to be great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, as long as they don't take any tips from Edge and Kurt Angle, and Edge not knowing how to use clippers and literally like cutting Angle's head as he's trying to cut his hair, or what was the other one? Oh, X-Pac and Jeff Jarrett for SummerSlam 98, where Jarrett's hair was so wet that they couldn't use the clippers to cut his hair, and it was the battery wasn't strong enough. Just let's figure it out ahead of time, okay, guys?
Yeah. Part of me thinks though that Jericho could lose the match and still keep his hair. Like I think they could do a beatdown and just shave Ortiz.
I don't know.
But I don't know. I think if Jericho loses though, I think he's going to be the type of guy that's like, cut it. I'll just cut my hair.
Absolutely he is. Absolutely he is. All right. I think that's pretty much everything from AEW. Before we transition to Hell in a Cell, want to remind you that this is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. If you're just now checking us out, don't know how you have missed out on us. After 70 plus episodes, we have been here for you, and that is season 3. Make sure you check out our archives. If you're a first-time listener, you can listen on any traditional audio format. That is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all those places. You can also check us out on the bodyslam.net YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button while you're there and the notifications bell. Check out all of our past episodes. There's old school stuff. There's new school stuff. There's something for every wrestling fan here on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. My name is Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging out with us. Joining me as always is Mr. Andy York. And Andy, it's time to talk about Hell in a Cell coming up this Sunday. Premium live event on the Peacock, headlined by the only Hell in a Cell match on the card, Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, part 3. And can I just say that segment on Monday Night Raw was so masterfully done. I would almost say it was perfect.
up until the MJF promo, Seth Rollins' promo was the best promo of the week. Like
Yes.
I think MJF topped it because there was a lot more behind it. But when he said you don't get to take a sledgehammer to the throne and then try to reclaim that throne from me. Like
Yep.
that line was perfect. The pull like I think sometimes the pull apart brawl can be overused and overplayed. I think this was the perfect spot for it. I the segment itself was the by far the best part of Raw. Like
Yep.
it was absolutely amazing. The crowd was hot for it. I believe they were in Iowa, which is Seth's
They
like
were.
home state, and they were chanting for Cody. So like that's that's a pretty big deal.
Yep.
Credit to Seth Rollins. He hasn't held a world title in 3 years. It took a lot to build him back up after how mishandled he was as Universal Champion.
Right.
And he has put in the work, put in the effort, and he has become the best part of Monday Night Raw. Like I know Cody Rhodes is there. Seth though has for the longest time been the best part of Monday Night Raw by far, easily
Yep.
the best part of Monday Night Raw. I think with Roman being gone, I think Seth is starting to climb that ladder really quick, and starting to move his way up really quick. I am more excited by seeing Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns at this point. And so I think they're doing a lot of great stuff with Seth. I don't think he's winning this match. I think he's going to lose 3 straight, which kind of sucks. But I think he's going to do something special after this,
Yep.
and kind of win his next couple of feuds after that. At least I hope so. But
Well,
yeah, the segment itself was awesome.
we kind of talked about it last week, and we're not gonna dive into the Sasha Naomi debacle this week just because there's nothing new to report. But we talked about it last week in the sense of you can lose a big match and
Right.
still be okay and be fine. Yes, I 100% agree that Seth Rollins is going to lose this match, but they're going to go about 35 to 40 minutes, and Seth Rollins is going to look like $1,000,000
Yep.
as he's counting the lights at the end.
Yep.
So, kudos to Seth Rollins, like you said, for the work that he has put in. And you mentioned Roman Reigns being gone. Man, all reports right now are that this building for Hell in a Cell is sold out, like a legit sellout for the show. Guess what? The champ ain't on it.
Yeah.
And it's being headlined by Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. So we might complain a whole lot about WWE's booking and their decisions and the way they go about things. But man, they're selling out a building without the champ. Like, we're doing something right.
Yeah, and I think that's really a testament to Cody and Seth. Like
Yep.
weirdly enough, Ezekiel and Kevin Owens. Like those are the two matches that I am the most looking forward to. Are those
Yep.
two? And so I think that definitely plays a massive part in all of this. Is when you build up. And this has been the best thing about someone holding both titles is that when there's no championship on the main show, you have to build up stars. Like you have to build them up. And they have done that with Seth. They've done that with Cody. They've done that with Kevin Owens. They've done that with Judgment Day and with AJ Styles. I will say AJ needs to win a pay-per-view match at some point, please, because it's been since last year that he's won a pay-per-view match when he won the tag titles with Omos or defended the tag titles with Omos. I think that's the last time he won on pay-per-view.
Let
then.
me think. You're probably right because he didn't
So-
win it. He didn't win at Rumble.
Nope.
He didn't win in the Chamber.
Nope. He didn't win at Mania.
Didn't win a Mania. Didn't win at Backlash.
Mm-mm.
So that means we have to go back to December. Don't even remember what the December pay-per-view was. I don't remember. So you're
When was
probably
he?
right.
Yeah. So I think it's been over a year since he's won on pay-per-view.
Well, they dropped the titles at SummerSlam.
So it's been right at a year.
Yep.
So he needs to win. Like he needs to win a pay-per-view match at some point. But they've been building up all these stars on Raw to make it feel like they're building up these stars. I will say the pay-per-view itself is I feel like it's not needed. I think you could do this on like a special and like be fine. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The fact that it's sold out is really a testament to Seth and Cody and what they have done since WrestleMania.
I agree. Totally agree. You mentioned AJ. Let's go there. Judgment Day, Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley in a 6-person mixed tag match against AJ Styles, Finn Balor, and Liv Morgan. Don't necessarily want to call them the club, but basically are.
Yep.
Um,
They're too sweet and they're the club.
um, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, man. We kind of talked about it would be cool if they did this sort of format, putting the ladies in there too. Not sure that they would, but here we are, So I think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know that Balor turns at the pay per view. I don't know that we get another new member just because that would be 3 pay per views in a row. But
Right.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know either. I think they could wait until the Raw after, like on Monday, to do a turn of somebody because I think we're definitely heading to Edge AJ again at SummerSlam. Like I think we're getting that match again, which we get to see that match in person again. So I am totally fine with that.
Yep.
But I think we could hold off on turning. I dig though, like somebody joining once a month. Like I think right now as you're building it up, as long as it doesn't get too big too quick,
right?
I think that's really important because you could bring in like a Ciampa, and then Priest and Ciampa could go after the tag titles.
Sure.
And then like you could have Rhea go after Bianca. You could have Edge go after Roman at some point. Like you could kind of build them up and maybe at some point hold all the gold or something like that. I think you could definitely play into that or do something like that. But I think we might get a turn. I don't think it'll be Finn. I think if it's anybody, it's Ciampa. Because we're not doing Ciampa versus Ali. And the way they did that on Raw was stupid.
Ridiculous. Yes.
So I think we could get that at the pay-per-view as well. But I think that's the only option. Other than that, I don't think we're gonna get a turn.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure either. I'm like you. I'm very excited to see Edge and AJ again. I'm kind of hoping that they do that at Money in the Bank, and then somehow we get Edge versus John Cena at SummerSlam.
He mentioned him in the promo a couple weeks ago, so I think that could be a possibility.
I hope it's a possibility because I need to see Edge and John Cena one more time.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this has 2 of my favorite all-time favorite wrestlers in this match, so I'm very excited to see it. Excited to see how it plays out. You mentioned Ali. Let's go, man. Not a whole lot to say about Ali versus Austin Theory for the U.S. title, other than I'm glad to see the U.S. title getting a shot on this show. Like, I'm very excited to see that.
The U.S. title and the IC title mean absolutely nothing right now.
And it's so stupid.
Absolutely nothing. We were talking about this before we recorded. Ricochet the IC title hasn't been defended since
WrestleMania 37.
Yeah, so that's been over 2 years now.
A year and a half.
A year and a half. Basically almost 2 years we're getting close to 2 years, which the fact that we're getting close to 2 years for a title not being defended on a pay-per-view is beyond
especially stupid. The Intercontinental title.
Right. So I don't know what to do. Like I don't know how to handle it. I think the only reason why this is even being defended is because Austin Theory is holding it. Like I think if it was anybody else, it probably wouldn't be defended on the pay-per-view.
Right.
I don't think there's any way Ali's going to beat Theory for the title. Which kind of is a disappointment because they just brought Ali back, but I think they only brought Ali back just to feed him to Theory, and then Ali's probably going to go away again. So
good possibility.
I don't know what's going to happen. It's weird that I'm more invested in non-title stuff than at the actual title scene. Like we don't know really who Roman's feuding with at this point. We don't know who, the Bloodline's kind of feuding with RK Bro, but RK Bro's not really there because Randy's hurt. So now it's like Riddle and Shinsuke. But are they really a team? Are they really feuding with the Bloodline? Like there's just so many convoluted stories that don't need to be convoluted right now.
Right.
And so it's just a weird time right now.
Yeah, Nakamura and Matt Riddle, they're a team, man. They're the Naka Bros. The Naka Bros. Come on, man. WWE posted that on social media the other day. Like, if you were to name this team, what would you name them? Like, Naka Bro. Duh.
Naka Bro. Oh my gosh.
Of course. Anyway, I tend to think that match is going to get added to the show. I don't know that for sure, but I tend to think that tag match is going to be added because we don't have any SmackDown representation on this show, which feeds into the theories and the rumors that have been floating around over the last couple of weeks that the brand split is dead. Yeah, pretty much is. Let's move on let's talk about KO and Ezekiel. Man, Speaking of SmackDown, Kevin Owens making his first appearance on SmackDown in a long time last Friday. And that segment with Sami Zayn was amazing. That was so good. You
Yeah.
could tell that was totally off the cuff, just those guys just interacting the way they normally would.
Yeah, absolutely. I would be fine if they put together Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as a tag team. Like I think that would be really interesting to see that. I love this whole Sami Zayn trying to get a part, like be a part of the bloodline. Like
Yep.
I think that is hilarious. Um, I'm excited for this with Ezekiel and Kevin Owens. The build has been funny. It's been
Mm-hmm.
great. I hope Kevin wins. I don't think he will. I think Ezekiel probably gets the win because it's his first pay-per-view match, basically singles match, and so they'll probably have him win. But I would love to see Kevin Owens kind of win this and then kind of maybe have Kevin Owens go after Ricochet for the IC title. Put the IC title on Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens hasn't held the title in like 6 years, 5 years,
Right.
5 or 6 years. It's been a while. I would love to see him kind of get a title after this, but I think the build to this match, for as weird as it was after WrestleMania, has been awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do.
You're gonna hate this, but I think this is the match on the card that could end in like a disqualification.
Probably.
I think this is
Probably.
the one because I just don't see this. Yes, Ezekiel could win and continue the feud. I just don't see this being the end of it.
Probably.
Mainly because I don't have a freaking clue what the payoff for this is going to be. Like,
I don't think there is a payoff.
What is going to be the payoff for this? I don't get it. I don't know. If we were in the Thunderdome, I'd tell you what the payoff is. But
we're getting Ezekiel and Elias together.
Exactly, we are. Kevin Owens and probably Sami Zayn are going to be in a tag match against Ezekiel and Elias, and they're going to figure out how to make that work.
No, it would be Kevin Owens and Ken Owens versus
that's
Ezekiel
right.
and Elias.
Now that I think would be pushing it a little too far. But
nah, that'd be fun. Just put a wig on him.
I know, but that'd be very, very convoluted. Anyway,
yes,
beside the point. I don't know what the payoff for this is.
Yeah.
So I think that because of that, I don't see an end to the storyline. So I feel like they could do a DQ finish. Gable and Otis can get involved and what have you. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it might.
Probably. I can see that happening.
Well, I tell you one thing that I don't want to see happen is Lashley versus Omos and MVP. Like, this is the biggest. I was talking to Jared on the phone the other day, and we were talking about the AEW pay-per-view because we hadn't caught up about it yet. And I said the only thing worse than watching Jade Cargill and Anna Jay wrestle was watching Lashley and Omos and all the nonsense they've been doing. It's terrible, man. Like, WWE chose to end Monday Night Raw with this segment.
Yep.
How dumb can you be?
They should have ended it with the Cody Seth thing.
But I get not wanting to make everybody wait all night for Cody. So they would have the Cody countdown for all night long. So I get that. But you could have ended it with Asuka versus Bianca and that whole situation.
The only thing is, like, Cody and Seth are main event in the pay-per-view. So I feel like they should probably main event the go home show for the pay-per-view. Like, I think that should be a big part. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to watch this match. I'm watching it live, and I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. Like, I love Bobby Lashley. I think Bobby Lashley could. I remember, we all remember when Bobby Lashley was the best thing on Raw and was a powerhouse, and for a while could have been in the conversation to be the one to dethrone Roman. Like, about 6 months ago, if you'd have put Bobby Lashley in there with Roman Reigns, we'd have thought there's a good chance Bobby could win this. Like, I could see Bobby winning this. Not now. This whole thing with Omos has been stupid. It's been terrible. The build itself has been bad. I'm fine with Bobby Lashley being a face. I love MVP with Omos. I think those two things work together. Bobby needs somebody, though. Bobby needs somebody to be his mouthpiece. He needs somebody to talk for him. And it needs to be more of Bobby Lashley versus MVP than Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Because Bobby versus MVP, I can kind of get through.
Right.
I can get through more. I don't want to see Omos anymore. I think Omos is a failed experiment. I think it's going to stay a failed experiment. I think it's going to be like the Great Khali all over again.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get a world title at some point, and that's only just because he's huge. And nobody wants to see that again. So I could see that happening.
If Omos is the one to dethrone Roman Reigns,
Possibility.
I might just cut the cord.
It's a
You
good
know?
possibility.
Like, come on. Like, there's no way you can convince me that that is a good idea.
I think in the eyes of WWE, I think Omos has a better chance than Seth does.
Probably, but
I'm not saying that's the best decision or a good decision, but
who in their right mind thinks that's a good idea?
Vince McMahon.
Like, are you can you seriously sit and tell me that watching the last two Omos matches,
Yeah.
like that WWE has watched that and be like, oh, that's good stuff, pal. Man, that was so good. Like, can you honestly say that?
Vince watched Great Khali, and it was the same way. It was the same exact way.
It's painful. It's awful.
However, Braun Strowman, though, only got like 2 title runs. 2? 1?
2.
2 title runs.
Yeah,
And everybody thought he was going to be one of the faces of the entire company. So there's that. But Vince loves guys like Omos, and I think he has a great chance to do it.
Please no. Okay, let's end this one on a high note. Let's talk about the triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka, Becky Lynch, and Bianca Belair. Taking out the Cody and Seth match because clearly we look up and down this card. Aside from this triple threat match, this is a one match pay per view. And you said that earlier. I'm going to agree with you. It's a one match pay per view.
Yep.
Taking that match out of the equation, though, this is going to be match of the night. Like, these three ladies are going to rock our socks off. It's going to be fantastic.
I think it's either going to be this or the 6-person tag. Like, I think those two are the ones that have the best chance of being match of the night. I agree, though. I think this is going to be probably the best match of the night, other than the main event. Honestly, I think there's like I don't know who could walk away champ. I
agree.
I think Bianca has the best chance to retain. I think I'm more likely leaning towards Bianca because I think we're going to get Becky versus Asuka in a singles match, not for the title at SummerSlam. Because I think Becky more than likely wins Money in the Bank, and then we go through Becky Asuka, and we get Rhea Bianca at SummerSlam for the Raw Women's title. So I think Bianca has the best chance to retain. However, I would not be shocked if Asuka won. I would not be shocked if Becky won. So this match I'm looking forward to because of the fact that I don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so I think it's going to be really great. I think all three women are going to do some amazing stuff. I'm expecting Bianca to hit a double KOD on both Asuka and Becky at the same time because if she could pick up Doudrop and I think she picked up Doudrop and Nikki ASH at the same time one time. Right. I think she could pick up Becky and Asuka with ease. So I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it starts off the show to get the crowd hot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
I'm going to go the other way on this, and I'm going to say that I think Becky wins because I think we're headed to a women's championship unification match at SummerSlam between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. You've unified the tag titles. You've unified the world title.
Yeah.
That's what's next.
Yeah.
And what better way to do it than Becky Ronda?
Do you know how deflating it's going to be, though, to hear Ronda's music hit at the end of this match?
I don't think it's going to happen right away. I don't think she shows up.
Not.
I don't think that happens because that match doesn't need a long build.
Now, I would think it would be very interesting. I do think it'd be very interesting if Becky did win here and she also won Money in the Bank and she held both and she cashed in on Ronda and won the title off Ronda then. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I don't think they want Becky to hold both, but you never know.
I don't know. I kind of think that's where we're headed because If you're unifying the other titles and the brand split's
Yeah.
dead, like that's next.
If Becky, as long as Becky wins it, then I'm fine. I
That's
don't think
what
she will.
that's what I'm
As
afraid might not happen.
as long as Becky wins it, because everybody knows my feelings about Ronda. I cannot stand Ronda. I go away.
She's getting over way more in this run. It's taken her a little while, but she's getting to that Ronda Rousey level again.
And the first run, it's because nobody knew what to expect. She came out at WrestleMania and killed
Tore
it.
it out. Yeah.
Like completely killed it. We're like, oh, she can actually do this. And then, like most other people, she went on Twitter and completely ruined it for herself. And so I think she is starting to build herself back up. Just personally, I would rather watch paint dry than watch Ronda Rousey wrestle. So I hope that is not the direction they go. But I could definitely see it happen.
I think it's depending on who she's in the ring with, but that's maybe another discussion for another time. That being said, man, let's put a bow on this episode. We've ran through the card. We've kind of made some predictions, but the last prediction we need to make is to hand out high spots and turd sandwiches. What we think is going to be the highs and the lows of the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I think we're going to agree on both of these. If you want to throw something different out just for the heck of being different, that's fine. But I don't think it's a mystery that I think the turd sandwich of this pay-per-view, I know. Turd sandwich of this pay-per-view is going to be Lashley, Omos, and MVP.
Yeah.
And the highest spot of this pay-per-view is absolutely going to be Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I just don't think there's any way around that.
Yeah, I agree. I'll do then the next best and the next worst. Because I completely agree that Cody Seth's going to be the best. Bobby Lashley, Omos, and MVP are going to be the worst. I think the second worst will probably be Theory and Ali. I think the match is going to be good, but there's no point. There's no stakes. It's not that big of a deal. And then I think the second best match of the night is going to be the women's triple threat. I think that's going to be. They're going to put Cody and Seth in a tough position because of that match, I think. And I think Cody and Seth are going to deliver, but I think they're going to put them in a tough position because that match is going to be so good.
Yep.
I think that Cody and Seth are going to have to really up their game because of it as well.
Sure. I mean, you run up and down this card, man, and, we said this is a one-match show, and that the build hasn't been fantastic, but we were pleasantly surprised with WrestleMania Backlash.
Right.
Because it was kind of the same way. Man, you look up and down this card, it looks a lot like WrestleMania Backlash.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 4 matches that you're really excited about. I'm putting KO and Ezekiel in there because we're really excited about that. And then you've got 2 filler matches. You've got Theory and Ali, and you've got Lashley and Omos. This really looks a lot like WrestleMania Backlash. So you people that are listening, don't be surprised if Andy and I get on here Sunday night, Monday morning, whenever we do our recap show, and tell you that we were pleasantly surprised and that this was a fantastic pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. I can definitely see that. My only thing is pay-per-views need to feel like pay-per-views. They need to feel important.
This doesn't? You don't think this feels important at all?
I do not. I think you could do Cody and Seth on a special or like on a Monday Night Raw main event because they did it for the SmackDown with Edge and Seth. They had that whole special match thing. I think you could do that there and be fine. I think you could hold off and do this at Money in the Bank and put it in a cell at Money in the Bank, and it would add to Money in the Bank as well. So I just feel like these WrestleMania Backlash, there's nothing special about it. The one thing that was special, they took away from it, the Unification Tag Title match. This one, the only thing special about it is Cody and Seth, and I'm excited for it. I think this is going to be great. I just don't think it needs to be a pay-per-view.
I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised after the show's over with on Sunday.
I hope so. I really do because I'm going in with. I think that's been the thing. I've been going into the last 2 with low expectations, and I've been pleasantly surprised. So
right.
I think that's going to be great. I'm of the belief that pay-per-views need to be special and mean something. And not just one match means something, but like over half the card actually means something. And I feel like that's not really the case with this one.
Yeah, AEW, Mark. Of course you would say that. No, in all seriousness, though, like I feel like WWE is finding the sweet spot for these in-between pay-per-views
right.
of this 6 to 7 match card. keep it, where it is so that everybody does get a good amount of time. And these filler matches, we don't waste a lot of time on.
Right.
So I'm not saying that Theory and Ali's not going to be a good match. I'm just saying you stack it up against the other ones, it's a filler match.
Right.
So I think WWE is finally hitting stride after how many years of these in between pay per views. Do I think it needs to be a Hell in a Cell pay per view? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Because we're only getting one match, but I've never been a fan of the gimmick pay per views anyway.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, man, I'm excited. I think it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying not to get expectations up there so I'm not disappointed, but I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think the wrestling's going to be good because the wrestling's always going to be good. I hope the stakes are as good. Like, because that was one of the things about Backlash is the wrestling was really good, but there was a lot more story in it than we thought.
Right.
And so I hope that's the case with Hell in a Cell as well. Especially since we're starting to build towards Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. There needs to be, we need to starting some other stories to get us through those other pay-per-views.
We're less than a month away from Money in the Bank, and we're just over a month and a half away from SummerSlam. So yeah, we should probably get started on those. All right. And for all of that coverage, we're going to be talking about it all here on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast. If you don't like the new stuff, check us out on Mondays for the old school stuff. We drop new shows twice a week, getting ready to be 3. Watch our social media again for our official announcement for the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Federation. That is coming soon. If you're into fantasy booking and all that kind of stuff, then that is the show for you. If you're not into it, it's going to be there for you anyway. Check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, make sure you follow us on social media. I am at Chris Belcher 24. He is at Andy_PBWP. The show is at PBW Podcast. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Subscribe wherever you're watching us. That would be the BodySlam.net YouTube channel. Make sure you're supporting SportsWire Radio. I know they appreciate it as well. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Thursday here on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, and we will catch you guys down the road.